Agus fáilte ara. I suppose the lack of availability and the lack of affordability of what is available is proving a barrier to some pursuing further and higher education options. And we see maybe many young people forced to live at home with parents, and it's the last thing they want to do, because after doing their Leaving Cert, they want to get out there and experience college life and get away. I know of a lad doing his Leaving Cert next week, and he can't wait to get away. Hopefully all works out for him in the autumn. You know, the fact that they're living at home then is putting pressure because they're commuting, and the options for commuting aren't always reliable. I mean, if it's a bus service or a train service, or they're driving with traffic and everything else, there's a cost to that. But it's not just a financial cost, there's that of course, but there's also a cost on their ability to study. They're going to be tired from all that commuting, and just on their ability to actually engage in college life. And I suppose for those who are renting, many of them, I think about 60% of them are struggling to pay the rent. And again, many of them are working part-time or indeed nearly full-time just to cover the costs. And again, that's having an impact on their ability to study and on their ability to live their lives. Many of them are dropping out because they can't actually maintain both the job and the study. And like we have, as you said yourself, 42,000 has been identified as being needed by 2035. But there was a report by Sherry Fitzgerald in February saying that there was almost 39,000 of a deficit now in our major cities, Dublin, Cork, Limerick and Galway, and that could be even increased if you factored in those who are commuting as well. So it is huge, and I mean, look, it's going to take both the state, private developers and colleges working together, as you've said, to actually ensure that there is sufficient accommodation in the years going forward. But, I mean, targets are not being met at the moment as it is, and as you said, many of the planning permissions that are given there are not being developed, and the cost is a huge factor in that. And when these are actually being built, most of them are not affordable to students as well. So all of that needs to be addressed. Now, I do welcome the fact that the borrowing framework for TUs has been worked out, and because many of them appeared before the committee and talked about, they had plans practically ready to go, and they would be able to develop purpose-built accommodation on land. And so I'm delighted if the borrowing framework is in place that they can actually go and progress those plans now and provide accommodation. I suppose one college which has a lot of accommodation is UCD, but it is extremely expensive. And I mean, I heard of people being, charge over 11,000 for a year for a student. Like, it may vary, but it's very, very high. Like, we want to see good standard accommodation provided to our students, but it doesn't have to be over the top either. It just needs to be basic quality accommodation. I feel there's an over-reliance in the student accommodation strategy on digs and on rent-a-room. And I mean, we know of many arrangements that work out really, really well. I've known people who've used digs over the years. But again, there are some perilous arrangements as well. And I've heard of students who are not allowed to stay weekends. They can only stay for maybe 3 nights during the week or 4 nights during the week. Then they have to move all of their stuff. They can't have friends over. They can't use the kitchen after a certain time, or can't have a shower after a certain time. And then obviously we have the sex for rent scandals as well, which is even more serious on top of all of that. So, I mean, we need protections for people who are going down that road of renting a room or getting digs in a house, because at the moment they don't come under the Residential Tenancy Board or any other such body. I would be a little bit concerned about the cost of developing purpose-built student accommodation. It seems very high. I know construction costs have increased across the board for all building private or whatever, but I don't know if our construction companies or development companies taking advantage of the fact that they know there's a huge deficit and there's a pressure to have purpose-built student accommodation. It's very, very high, and I know again you would tell me it goes out to tender and so forth, but I mean, I just wonder why the cost is just so high. Student contribution fees were reduced last year. I hope again that we'll see a reduction for this year. I know you won't confirm that at this stage, but I'm just hoping that it will. In relation to Susie, I've been contacted by a couple of people. Now, one is a young lad. He's born in this country. did all the schooling here, primary and post-primary, did very well in his Leave Insert a year ago, applied for college, got accepted, but when he applied for the Susie grant he was denied because his parents are visa holders. They're here on work permits, but his father's here in excess of 20 years, working and contributing to the economy here, and yet he was deemed not to qualify for a Susie grant, and I feel that's unfair. I mean, I can understand someone who's just moved here, they wouldn't be entitled to support like that, but someone who has been born and reared here, whose parents have contributed to the economy, should be entitled to Susie. Now, he's applied again this year, and hopefully it will be successful. But if not, Minister, I may be coming back seeking some guidance from you on it. Like another young girl as well, who wasn't born here, but she was here she was quite young, 7 or 8 years of age. Again, most of her schooling done here. Same situation. Parents are non-European, here on work permits, and again being deemed not to qualify. And I just feel it's unfair for these students who've worked really hard, who've got good results, who want to progress. This is their home. It's the only country they've known to live in, and they're being denied the opportunity. The parents can't afford to pay for them privately. In relation to students' unions, I just feel students' unions do great work supporting students in our colleges, but they are under pressure at the moment, and they said they're acting almost like letting agencies, because the student accommodation issue is so big that they're trying to support so many students, and that's putting a lot of pressure on them being able to support students on other issues as well. And in fact, there's been a number of colleges where they've had to open food banks. And again, that's very, very serious. So again, if there could be more supports given to students' unions to support students, but again, vitally what we need is more interventions in affordable and available accommodation, and cost of living supports as well for students who are finding it difficult to make ends meet. Thank you, Minister.